Hello and welcome to our final week. Woo! This has been a fun journey, and it's going to be really rewarding to see you guys do your presentations on Thursday. I'm so excited, and I'm sure you guys are really excited too, because you're going to be graduating, right? And so pretty soon, in no time, you are going to be going out there for the job search, and you're going to be, you know, putting your portfolio out there for clients and employers to see. Your resume and your cover letter is going to be put to use. Oh, and that reminds me, Tamisha, you emailed me your resume, and I have not yet downloaded. I wanted to make sure I give you feedback on that. So this is really important that you put a lot of effort into doing a really good presentation, because this is going to be your chance to give a presentation in front of like real people, just like you would when you're applying for a job. And it's also a chance for you to get this whole branding done for your client. And you know what, Tamisha, I'm actually like right in the middle of trying to download your resume, and it doesn't want to download for me. So if you wanted to put like in the chat, maybe a smaller JPEG file, or because I think it's just too big to receive over email, that might be better. Or you could also just email me like a small JPEG file of your resume instead. So yeah, and you're also going to be getting your Behance together, and you're going to be getting your client branding project together. So you're going to be able to show off that. And on Thursday, you are going to get the chance to pitch your idea to us and have that experience with giving a professional presentation. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. I'm going to give you some tips on doing a really awesome presentation. And let's take a look at what's due this week really quick. So on Thursday, Tamisha, Tim is going at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, or possibly earlier. We haven't found out yet. It's just his FPA wasn't able to do that time, so earlier might be an option. And then Tamisha is going at 5, from 5 to 6. And it looks like Lisa is going to be able to be there, and potentially a few others, so that'll be really exciting. So that's the big thing. You want to make sure that everything is in and due and designed and revised by then. What you're also turning in is a PDF of all of your flat designs. So your stuff unmocked up, your labels, your banners for your social media, your logos, if you decided to make a style guide, your style guide. But in addition to those flats, you're going to also have your mock-ups. And so this is a chance to create mock-ups. For instance, if you've made some business cards, you can mock up those business cards as if they're laying on a table, so we can kind of see what they would look like in the real world. Or if you're doing social media branding, you can have your social media banners and avatars mocked up on actual Facebook and actual Twitter. And then you can take a screenshot of that and put that in your PDF as well, so that you can see what your design looks like when it's flat and when it's just on a page, and then what your design looks like when it's actually like in the environment. You can also, you're also going to be turning in your Behance portfolio. So that means revise any projects that you maybe need to revise from past classes. Put everything that you want to put in your Behance portfolio in your Behance portfolio. make sure that your whole Behance site kind of has like this consistent branding, this consistent identity for yourself as a graphic designer, and just get it to the place where you feel good about sending it out to potential clients and employers, and you think it's going to be something that's going to impress them. So consistent branding is an important thing that you'll continue to read about in the classroom and also hear about as we give you your feedback on your portfolio. Um, and a really good example just to look at for an idea of what consistent branding feels like and looks like is this designer, Loish. She has really consistent branding across all of her social media, and I'm just going to copy and paste her links in the chat so you can check them out. But whether you're going to her DeviantArt, her Facebook, her website, her LinkedIn, her Twitter, she uses a similar color scheme throughout. She uses a similar idea of like these rounded edged boxes and this kind of similar texture for all of things. And I think I showed some examples of this in our week 1 class. So that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about branding yourself as a designer and keeping it consistent. Think about what is your color scheme, what is your color palette as a designer. Use current design trends when you are coming up with your own branding, because you don't want something to look like it's like 1990s web design or anything like that. You want everything related to you to be contemporary, to have a specific style to it, so people go, okay, when I'm looking for something that's gonna give me this sort of feeling, I'm gonna hire this designer. And we're also going to talk about this week finding work and the different places that you guys can go to find work, whether it's freelance work or salaried type jobs. But first, what we'll do is talk a little bit about mocking up your designs in social media, so that it's all ready for your PDF. One thing I was doing earlier was, for you, Tamisha, I remember as I was looking at your web banner for Facebook and your social media banner, I was thinking, like, what is a way that we could make your social media branding a little bit more interesting rather than just having a logo on a solid colored background. And so I just went on Google and I just did a search for like education services and tutoring services, and just tutoring for kids. So I could get an idea of what other organizations do as far as their branding and making things interesting. So I found this website, which is really interesting. Notice it has good contrast, and that was something I was worried about a little bit with your designs that you did. The blue was more of a medium blue, and I would recommend going for either a dark blue or a light blue. This website is really smart because it has this very dark blue box here, and then it has the white, so it's very, very high contrast. And the blue contrasts nicely with the orange logo for tutor.com. And I think that's very smart. And this down here, I think, is really interesting because they have these photos, and the photos have been colored with like a monochromatic overlay of color. So it helps the photos feel like they all belong together. And I was thinking maybe that's something that might inspire you, Tamisha, with your design. because I feel like we really need some photos or something other than just a logo for your social media branding. They have really nice icons too for each of the different areas that you might want to click on their website. And so that is something else that you can incorporate into your design instead of just having the words, services available, home, contact us. Like having a picture there is really good, especially since you're advertising like education services. There might be a chance that some people can't read very well, and so having pictures might be a good way to go. And see, this is very easy to navigate, and I would just recommend, hey, if you're not quite sure what direction you want to go with your web design or your Facebook ads, maybe copy something like this, and don't copy it exactly, change the colors a little bit, but use it as inspiration or a jumping off point for your design. Okay, here's another website. And this is something you can incorporate in your website design as well. It's got a little pop-up thing that pops up right away where you can put in your contact info and interests so that someone can contact you. This is a little bit on the plain side, but notice the large type. It makes it easy to read, and the high contrast makes it easy to read. And the buttons are dark blue with white text, so that also increases contrast. And the little drawings here are very nice. Nice alignment. So just some things that, let's take a look at some other places. Schooltutoring.com. So this has really big photos on here. And notice the photo is not normal exposure. The photo has been darkened so that the text will pop against the photo. So this is another design that you can get a little bit of inspiration by. Large photo, links at the top of the screen, our large eye-catching text. The button is bright orange. The chat assistant button here is green, right? So the color scheme is kind of like this blue, orange, green, yellow thing. This is a very nicely designed website, and this might also be one that you might want to think about utilizing for your inspiration as you're coming up with your final design for your website. But very professional looking. So once you have your designs, I think it would be just a great idea for you to make an actual Facebook account and an actual Twitter account for that company. So then all you have to do is, go in and see if it's going to let me make a new account with my same username and password. Nope, it's I think maybe what I would have to do is like sign up for a new page. I should have looked into this a little bit more. Let me log out again. So maybe we could sign up, we can make up a name. Let's do, oh, you can see my password. I'll have to log out for a second. But you get the idea. So what we can do is we can make a new Facebook page. And let's see. Up at the little drop down menu here, we can go to create page, and then we can create a page for a business or a brand. That's what I wanted to do. Yay. Get started. And so then you can name your page syntax. Education. And then for the upload a profile picture, you can just go ahead and upload, upload that banner that you made, upload that avatar. And then once it's all uploaded, you know how to take a screenshot, right? You could just hit Shift Command 4, take a screenshot of your whole website, and then that can be there in your PDF, which would be very, very nice. So let's take a look now at a example of the presentation that you'd make, that portfolio that you'd make. Let's take a look here. And this is Dana's from a couple mods ago. And so Dana has on her PDF, she has her main page here with her resume on the other side. And then this is her mood board that she made for the organization that she was designing for. And then here she has a very nicely designed creative brief. And the client's name is a little bit different from what she actually used. But notice how the, very, very nicely designed creative brief, very easy to read, nice use of bullet points, nice narrow columns, got the logo on it. So this is a very, very professional looking creative brief design. Then she has the flats, the logo design. And then she's showing the logo design and the business cards mocked up. So she has a picture of the cup with the business cards on it. Very nice. She has the letterhead and the envelope, and the letter and the envelope mocked up. Very nice. The flat of the poster, and then the poster as it might look on a wall. Then the flat of the brochure, and then as the brochure might look when it's unfolded and resting on a table. So this is a very, very strong presentation. The trick then will be when you present this in class on Thursday, how can you use your 10 minutes of time to explain your process and explain your reasoning behind the choices that you made in a way that's interesting and going to make the client want to hire you rather than someone else. So let's take a look at a brief overview of how to pitch to clients. And then I'll show you an example of a designer talking about her process and her actual pitch to a client.
The best way to pitch to a client is to know what you're talking about. So the biggest thing is knowing exactly the key points that they wanted you to solve, all the problems that they had, all the questions that they sent over to you late in the night, and then also being able to visually display how you understand and translated everything that they gave to you into a presentation. So pitching an idea can be anything from pitching a concept, whether it's, hey, you want to do a commercial or you want to do a website and you want to have 3 different people do this website and pick your favorite one, all the way up to, hey, we finished your project and now we want to pitch it to you and show it to you through our eyes. The worst thing that you could ever do is just send something over to a client without any explanation whatsoever and then just ask, do you like it? You want to make sure that you become one with the project, become one with the presentation, and then also ask, hey, can I go over this with you as you look through it? Like, let me tell you why I thought this out, or let me tell you why I chose to do this, or why I decided to do that. This is important because without any of these explanations, the client's interpretations can get lost very easily, and so can what you wanted them to take away. So the best way to do a presentation is really just to make sure you outline everything that you need to show and show it the best way that you feel comfortable, whether it's through a PDF that's interactive or not, or whether it's through Keynote or PowerPoint presentation. And making sure that it's not your typical Keynote and PowerPoint presentations that it just look like you popped up a theme and put some words in it. There's a lot of great resources out there with templates that are already designed or that you can design on your own. And then last but not least, and certainly not the last thing that you can do, is a video presentation, whether you're doing it through After Effects or even just talking into a camera and telling the person, hey, this is what I want to do, this is my pitch, and what do you think? At the end of it, you really want to make sure that your needs have been met, the client's needs have been met, and both of your explanations of both of your expectations are met as well. Always make sure that you get all the questions from the client and that you also make sure you get all of your questions out so that any iterations that come about can be answered in your next presentation. So it's all about communication.
Okay, so the trickiest part of a presentation is obviously your opening. Okay, you have a beautiful PDF or a PowerPoint presentation. You put so much work into these designs, and now it's your turn to present. And so you share your screen, you share your first page of your PDF or your PowerPoint presentation. How do you begin? What's the first thing that you say? Now we're going to introduce you, so you don't have to say your name. You don't have to say, hi, I'm Tamisha, and this is my project. Start with a hook. Start with something that will intrigue your audience and make them want to find out more of what you're going to show us. And so some different ways that you can get started. I'll just type these up. Ways to open. You can, of course, find a quote that's related to what your message or what the feeling is that you want to convey. Now, there was a designer who is coming up with a branding campaign for, I believe it was the 1998 Olympics, or was it I think it might have been the 2001 Olympics. And it was Nike's campaign that tied in with the Olympics. And this designer started their brief with the quote, sport is war minus the killing. And by opening that with that quote, you're like, ooh, that's a really dramatic quote. And that's gonna launch right into a presentation that's going to be about raw energy and grittiness and excitement and drama. And you then, as the designer, can talk about what are the feelings that you want to convey to the people who are viewing your design content. Okay, so what are the feelings? You can also open with talking about your target demographic, talking about the target demographics problems. You can paint a picture or an illustration for us of a person that's probably like a fictional made up person, but the type of person that uses your product. Since you're doing education and tutoring services, you might talk about, someone named Eric. He's an 11-year-old kid who comes from an at-risk background. His mom's single, and you take the bus to school in the morning, and when he gets home from school in the evening, in the afternoon, his mom's not there because his mom has to work. And so, unlike his classmates who have two parents at home who are college educated and eager to spend, those hours from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock helping him with his homework and giving him that one-on-one attention, Eric's never had that. He comes home from school, he watches TV. Then after dinner, his mom reminds him, hey, did you do your homework? And he's like, oh, I guess I'll get started on it. And his mom's not college educated, so she doesn't really remember the things that she learned in elementary school or middle school. And so she can't really help him with his homework. So he kind of gives up because it's too hard, and he goes back to watching TV. And then he doesn't have his homework turned in. And if he doesn't, get things together, and if he's not able to, get his grades up, he is going to end up being one of those kids who's not able to either graduate high school or get accepted to a good college. And he's then at risk for either a life of working retail, a life of potentially crime, because he needs to be able to support his mom. So you can then paint a lot of dire circumstances that can happen for someone who's not able to get their grades up in elementary school, middle school, or high school, and get accepted to a good college. So then you can launch into, and that's the type of student that Syntax is hoping to reach. We have an easy to use online platform, and so our goal is to try and get students to, instead of just watching TV after school, log into our website and play games that will teach them the skills that they need to learn in order to do homework. So that's just an example of how you can approach it, like painting a picture of your typical user. Another thing you could talk about is talking about current events and somehow tying in what is happening in the world right now to the product or service that you're offering and your approach to how you're going to advertise that product or service. And so a good example of that is, again, from the TV show Mad Men, which is all about advertising. And in this short clip, prior to Peggy's pitch meeting with a burger chain where she is telling them about her design and her advertising plan for this fast food restaurant, the previous night, the moon landing happened. 1969, men stepped on the moon for the first time. And so she decides to open her pitch relating it to the moon landing. And so see how she made a really compelling pitch to a client using a current event as a way to open.
I'm going to be bold and say that no one in this room knows more about the Burger Chef customer than Peggy Olson. She has visited 20 restaurants in 9 states, interviewed hundreds, and is obviously uniquely qualified to craft this modern campaign. Every great ad tells a story. Here to tell that story is Peggy Olson.
Thank you, Don. That's a lot to live up to, because I certainly can't tell a better story than the one we saw last night. I don't know what was more miraculous, the technological achievement that put our species in a new perspective, or the fact that all of us were doing the same thing at the same time. Sitting in this room, we can still feel the pleasure of that connection, because I realize now we were starved for it. We really were. And yes, we'll feel it again when they all return safely. And yes, the world will never be the same in some ways. But tonight, I'm going to go back to New York, and I'll go back to my apartment and find a 10-year-old boy parked in front of my TV, eating dinner. Now, I don't need to charge you for a research report that tells you that most television sets are not more than 6 feet away from the dinner table. And that dinner table is your battlefield and your prize. This is the home your customers really live in. This is your dinner table. Dad likes Sinatra, son likes the Rolling Stones. The TV's always on. Vietnam playing in the background. The news wins every night. And you're starving. And not just for dinner. What if there was another table where everybody gets what they want when they want it? It's bright and clean, and there's no laundry, no telephone, and no TV. And we can have the connection that we're hungry for. There may be chaos at home, but there's family supper at Burger Chef.
That's beautiful.
That's nice to hear, because that's the name of the spot.
Family supper at Burger Chef. So, in addition to starting with a discussion of current events, in this case, the moon landing, Peggy then went into research, which is another really good way to open. She said her research found that most family dinner tables are 6 feet away from the television set. And so what she's selling with her advertising campaign for Burger Chef is a place without those distractions where people can have a connection, right? So think about, I think this is like probably the number one thing that you want to think about as you're planning your opening for your presentation. Think about how you're going to open. You know, feel free to choose these options. Is there a quote that kind of encapsulates what you're going for? And then can you dive into talking about the mood and the feeling that you're going for with that quote? Is it that you can tell a story and paint a picture of a person who's going to be like the main user of whatever it is that you're trying to sell? Is there a current event that has happened recently that you can tie in to your approach to the advertising campaign? Is there an interesting fact that you found in your research that you can then tie into your pitch? And remember, a pitch is all about telling a story. Tell us a story. Don't just explain, you know, this is my trifold brochure. This is my billboard. You know, tell us a story about the type of person who's going to be enticed by that specific design and that specific idea. Okay, before we jump into talking about finding work, I thought we'd just talk a little bit about doing mock-ups, because we really want to make sure that our mock-ups are in perspective and nicely designed. And there's a couple of great resources that have been available in our classroom that you might want to take advantage of. So we have a lot of links here. And these are free templates that you can use for mock-ups. And so I just opened each of those, and so tons of different mock-ups here. iMac mock-ups. So this is great if you want to show what your web page is going to look like on an iMac or on a MacBook. See, isn't that nice? Did it download? Nope, it didn't download. Okay. Oh, do I have to log in to download it? I think you have to log in. That's why. But you have all of these really cool. I'll use this as an example. So you have all these really cool templates for mock-ups, and the trick though is you want to get them into perspective. So I'm just going to open up that screenshot. And I'd recommend logging in and downloading so that you have, you know, a nice, good, full resolution PSD. Because I think in the PSD that you download, you'll have this reflection here on a separate layer. So you'll be able to put in your design on top of this MacBook, and then you'll have the reflection on top of it, so it'll look really nice. Okay, so let's say we want to put in the screenshot of Facebook onto our screen here. What we can do is I'll just control click on this layer and control click on the blank part of the layer rather. Then click duplicate layer, and I'm going to send it to my other document. Shrink this down. Just shrink it down a little bit more. And then we can go to Edit, Transform, Perspective. And we can put this into perspective. I think we just might need to skew it just a little bit. And so then we can kind of see what our page looks like on the screen. And I'm just gonna crop that out, delete. And I just need to fix a few things. I obviously need to add a little bit of white down there to make this work. But see, when you do your website, you want to mock up how it will actually look on a computer screen like this. Like so. Okay, I can go through this again, doing mock-ups. You could also, you're more than welcome to take a photograph of your own computer screen or laptop screen and use that as for your mock-up. You are also welcome to, if you're having a little trouble with the perspective, you are welcome to use the computer screens that are front facing so that you don't have to actually put it into perspective using the transform work. So some other things that you probably want to include for your mock-up are, like I said, billboard, and so this one is going to be kind of challenging for you because it's in perspective. This one might be a lot easier because it is front facing. Take a screenshot of that. And a screenshot of this. And I would recommend downloading the full resolution versions. Don't just do screenshots. I'm just doing these screenshots to save some time. So first, I would recommend figuring out what size the billboard is in the screenshot or in the mock-up that you've selected. And this is fairly simple to do. You can just get your square marquee tool out. Zoom in nice and close. It already says 4,000 by 3,000, so that's helpful. But if you don't know what the size is, you can just get your rectangle marquee tool out. Make a little selection, hit Command C to copy, and then go File New and use Document Type Clipboard, and that will give you your clipboard size. And then you can design your billboard here in the space. So let's say I'm going to do something for syntax. I'll use kind of a light blue background. I'll do a real dark blue for the text. And then a slightly lighter blue and a lighter font. And maybe I'll put in some imagery here that might be helpful. And we're going to go to Tools, Usage Rights, Labels for Reuse with Modification. Size, we'll do large. And we want to find some nice, studious students looking happy. This will be good. They all look really confused though. They don't necessarily look happy. This guy looks a little bit happy, but it's pics here. I have to log in. These guys look happier. So now we can go File, Place Embedded. And I can do something like that. And then I'll hit Shift Command Option E. And then I'll hit my marquee tool, Command C to copy. I'll go to the billboard. Command V to paste. And there it is. So that's kind of like how it would look on a billboard in the environment. So next, how do we do this in perspective like this? This is a little bit more challenging. So what we're going to do is guesstimate the size of this billboard. We're making a little selection here. And then hitting Command C, and then going to File New, and then hitting OK, and it's going to give us the size of that selection that we made. And now I'm going to bring in all these layers by selecting them and holding down the Shift button, and then going Control click, duplicate layers, and I'm going to send these layers to my new untitled document. Now I'm going to go like that. And then I'll hit Shift Command Option E. I'll use my selection tool to Command C. And then Command V to paste. So now what we have to do is we have to get that into perspective to fit on that billboard. So I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, Perspective. And it's kind of like up and sideways a little bit. So it's like kind of up like that. It's a little bit like that. Actually, this size is coming back. Make Command Z, undo. Command Z, undo, escape. Okay. I think it's going to help if I lower the opacity a little bit, because it's a little bit of a challenging perspective. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Perspective. So it's a little bit like that. Bit like that. And I think I have to rotate it a little bit too. You can also try free transform, which might help as well. But yeah, the problem with free transform, never mind, don't do that, is I forgot, it doesn't keep the aspect ratio. So transform, let's do perspective one more time. I think actually what we're going to want to do is do skew on this. I'm going to edit, transform, skew. Yeah. It's snapping, which is really annoying. So you can go to view. Well, I guess it turned off snapping. Just. There we go. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. So mock-ups. Any questions about this? So just like in the PDF I shared with you guys, you're gonna have the flats, and then you're gonna have the mock-ups. So we can see what it looks like in an environment and what it looks like just flat. Okay, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about getting a job. This is really important. Because in 6 months, you guys are going to have a lot of student loans to pay off, which can be an expensive monthly bill, $500 or $600. So it's a good idea to just hit the ground running as far as finding a salaried position, and then consider doing freelance work in addition to having that salaried position. And so something I didn't put on here was IAGA.org is a great place to go for your job search, because they have job postings on there. Now, I'll copy and paste these websites into the chat. Guru.com is a great place to go for freelance gigs. People will post that they are looking for someone to design their book cover, someone to design their logo, or someone to design a website for them. And you respond to their post, and Guru.com has a place in there where you can host your portfolio and tell them, oh, yes, I'll design your website for you for $250. And then if they like your portfolio and they like the amount of money that you're requesting, they'll respond to you and say, great. And you can then sort out all the payment there on the website. I really recommend for all freelance clients to do the payment where it's a third up front, then a third, when you show them your proofs, and then a third upon delivering the final product in a full res, or posting it live in the case that it's a website. Because it's very disappointing to say, yes, I will do your project for you, and then do all this work, and then they just leave and they don't pay you. And that's really bad. So if you're smart, do your payment in 3 parts. So a third up front, a third, a third before you do anything. So if it's a $900 project, $300 you get paid up front before you do anything. Then $300 when you deliver them the proofs, and then $300 when you deliver them the final product. And it's a really good idea to have a contract with your client before you begin any work as well. And you can just go on Google and do a search for graphic design contract, and you can find lots of different contract templates that you can use that have a timetable of when the thing will be completed by, the payment, and how the payment works out, and what is going to be delivered by certain dates. Another website to go to is upwork.com, which is also like Guru, where people will post their gigs, things that they need done, and then you can submit and bid on those gigs. Mandy.com is focused more towards the film industry. So I would recommend searching in Los Angeles and New York, because you can search by location. And even though you are searching in Los Angeles and New York, a lot of the jobs there, you don't have to actually be in Los Angeles or New York. There's a lot of like, some people looking for poster designs, or people looking for websites, or people looking for illustrations or whatever. And so those are the sorts of things that you can email to people. So look in key art, and the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's New York or LA, because a lot of the jobs on Mandy.com are things that you can do over email and are not actually, you have to go in there. 99designs.com is a great way to kind of practice and, build your portfolio too. What it is people will post that they're looking for a logo design, or they're looking for something, and then you design the logo. The problem here is that there's no guarantee that you'll get paid, but it's a great way to practice. And then that client will get 99 different logo variations that have been submitted by a bunch of different designers. And then if they like your logo design the best, you will get paid for it. The problem, like I said, the problem is you do work and there's no guarantee that you're going to get paid for it. But the good thing is, it is something that you can put in your portfolio. It's a great way to practice, and it's a great way to see the design that ultimately was picked. So you can get an idea of where your skill set is and where the people who are good are. And then Fiverr.com, what you have to do is you have to post your services. So you go on Fiverr.com and you post that you will retouch someone's social media photos for $500. Or not $500, $5. You will restore someone's photos for $5. You will cut out an object from its background for $5. You will design someone a logo for $5. And everything's in the $5 to $10 range. And people will then, browse your services, browse for what they're looking for. Then when they see you, then they'll request your services through the website. So it's all handled that way. And then IAGA is the graphic design organization, and there's a lot of job postings on there as well. And when you graduate, communicate regularly and often with our career services department, because they can assist you with your job search as well. Now, I may have talked about this before, possibly in week 1, but Shutterstock is a great way to get money while you're freelancing, while you're doing your regular salary job stuff. Because what you do is you upload your designs, your illustrations, your photos, and every time someone downloads your work, you get paid for it. So you don't have to be doing anything. You can be, this is called passive income. You can be sleeping and your photos and illustrations and graphic designs are up there on the Shutterstock website, making money for you, because every time someone downloads your work, you get paid for it. This is what Fiverr looks like, and these are the types of jobs. So there's, you can design a trendy t-shirt for someone. You can, do a drawing for someone. You can do, all sorts of different things. And, just post a bunch of different things that you have skills with, and people will then, start submitting to you. And you can post those skills on Fiverr, and then, also advertise your Fiverr services on your social media, such as Twitter or Facebook. Now, if you decide to go into like selling stock photography, which is a great way to make some passive income, some different things you can do, include just making abstract photos. Find cool pieces of fabric and photograph it. Find glitter and photograph it. Mock up interesting designs or interesting environments in Photoshop using filters and colors and painting. And put that up there on those stock photography websites so you can get paid for it. So some examples of things that you can do and that you can submit to stock image websites include, things that might make interesting desktop backgrounds or presentation backgrounds or illustration backgrounds. People like to put textures and photo elements inside of text. So anything that someone could put inside of typography would be a really good stock photo. People like things for their logos. So an image that would look really good behind a logo. Custom patterns. So people like patterns that they can put on shoes or tote bags or binders. So if you make a nice repeating pattern, you can put that up on Shutterstock, and also just fine art prints for decor. Put that up on Shutterstock, and people download them and use them. And there's tons of different ways to make not only abstract photos, but abstract illustrations and graphics. And, photographing things up close, really good way to photographing interesting elements like water, reflections, smoke, fire, all ways to make really good abstract photos that can be uploaded to stock image websites for people to download. And you can make abstract photos either in the camera. This image here was created just by photographing some oil and water on a clear pan with colored paper behind it. So that's an example of just photographing something interesting with your camera and making it interesting, like desktop wallpaper background or a background for a presentation. And this is an example of photographing something interesting in the camera and then altering it in Photoshop. So I took a photo of a pan of glitter, just like that. Put some glitter on a pan with a mirror, and then took a picture into the mirror with the light shining underneath it. Brought it into Photoshop and did some color correcting, and then did a little spot healing and clone stamping to get rid of seams until it was a nice, perfect kind of star field. And then here we have an interesting pattern that people can download and use for either textures or backgrounds as needed. You can also go in Photoshop and make interesting abstract designs using filters and adjustment layers and blending modes and digital painting. And yes, you can actually make money with this. In fact, the first time I talked to my students about doing Shutterstock, I had a student email me a few days later saying that she uploaded her images to Shutterstock and she'd already made $5. So the key to making money with Shutterstock is to continue to upload a lot of content. Pay attention to the keywords that people search for when they're downloading. Holidays are really big. Textures are really big. Things related to the seasons are really big. So, all of that are things that you can make stock images for. And then, every time someone's making a Christmas card or making a presentation that's set around Halloween, they'll use your designs because you've chosen a correct theme. And I just uploaded like 10 images. And so periodically I check and see how much money I made. Not very much when you just upload 10 images, but if you start to upload more, again, it's easier to get paid. In fact, there's some people who make their whole income, $70,000 a year just selling stock images. So this website here has a lot of stock images. stock image websites rather that you can upload to. And I think I've talked about these before, so I'll just kind of skip through them. Definitely check out the link I just shared in the chat. But market.envato.com, Alami, oh my goodness, Crestock, Dreams Time, Corbis, Getty Images, all different places that you can go to get started in stock photography. So now let's talk a little bit about getting that first job, getting that first salary job. These are some of the materials that I've made for myself, including I have a portfolio booklet that I made there on lulu.com. That's LULU.com. I just put my portfolio together in a nice 20-page book and got it printed for lulu.com. And then that book is what I can bring with me to interviews, and I can then give that book and leave it behind with people I've interviewed with so they can keep it on their shelf. And then every time they might be interested in looking for, in hiring an artist, they might take that book off their shelves and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll hire that person. And also I made postcards, and the postcards were made at overnightprints.com. And it has a collection of images on the front and then my contact information on the back. So let's hear now a little bit about how to go about getting your first job in graphic design.
Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake of robertoblake.com, helping you create something awesome today. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to get hired as a graphic designer, how you're going to get your first graphic design job. This is going to be extremely useful to many of you in the audience because you've talked to me about this. You're struggling to get hired in the job market. You're a new designer in the industry. Whether you're younger or whether you're a little bit older, more experienced in life, this could be very helpful to you because I'm going to help you understand exactly how people sitting in the hiring chair, which I've been in and I'm technically still in today as a creative entrepreneur, like how we think of it when we're approaching graphic designers, when we're hiring for work, how you can get that first job if you want to work as a graphic designer. I'm also going to speak from some of my own experience, having worked as an in-house designer and also having worked in an ad agency prior to my becoming a creative entrepreneur. So I want to preface this video by starting out with a very important phrase. It's called employer empathy. Employer empathy is where instead of thinking about what you need, you're putting yourself in a position to really think about the value that you create for someone else. You're putting yourself in their shoes. Instead of thinking about, I really need this design job so I can pay off my expensive student loans, you have to think about the person who's hiring you, the guy or gal who needs you to be able to deliver for their brand and has this anxiety of hiring a stranger, interacting with them every day for the next 3 to 5 years, and shelling out 6 figures plus in that time period to invest in them. That's a really big commitment. I want you to take that into perspective that over the next 3 to 5 years, this person's probably going to pump like over $250,000 into facilitating your livelihood, whether that's in the upfront cost of paying your salary, the equipment that you use, any training that they have to provide you with, and the loss that they take for those first 2 to 3 months while you're getting the hang of things. So that's a real big commitment to make, and if you were writing that check, what would make you comfortable and what would make you trust that person with your business and with your reputation? That's something you really need to think about. So what are you doing to position yourself as someone likable and trustworthy, someone that they can rely on and depend on, and that they can feel really good about making an investment in? So let's talk about that. Part of it is going to be your portfolio, another part of it is going to be your personality, and another part of it is going to be your paperwork. Now, let's skip right to the paperwork. I want you to understand that there are some people who still value a degree of some kind, whether that's in graphic design or whether it's a completely different degree. Some people just want you to have it. Now, this is going to shift and change because Frankly, in hiring, I could care less about your degree because, in my opinion, you could just show up, or you could lie about it, or you could fake that paperwork. The CEO of Yahoo prior to Marissa Mayer, like, faked their resume and what their degree was in for a long time before they got fired for it. So I don't trust that, and I'm not really interested in that. What I am interested in is the portfolio and the personality, because that's going to show me how you execute, and then more importantly, who I'm dealing with, who I'm entrusting my brand, who I'm entrusting my clients, who I'm entrusting my livelihood to as a partner that's going to be working with me day in and day out, and that I'm going to be relying on to hold me accountable as an employer and a boss to make sure I'm making the right decisions. So that's a real big deal when it comes down to it. And in my mind, that's so much more important, the person and the execution, than the paperwork. You can't really fake the funk when it comes to who you are, and it's really hard to fake the funk when it comes to your execution and your body of work. Sure, there are people who kind of fake their portfolios all the time, but that's why more and more companies and businesses are actually doing live testing, or they want to have referrals and they want to have testimonials from people that you've worked with in the past. Even if you're a new graphic designer, you should have references from people that you've done freelance work with or that you've volunteered with, because that's going to matter, because no one wants to be the first person to have to go out on a limb and trust you to do this thing. They need to see, well, who else has done that? That's going to be helpful. And so many of you are so resistant to the idea of doing any work for free, whether it's volunteering with a charity or whether it's working even with family and friends for free, that you're not giving yourself a real shot at getting paid for your work by having those references and having credibility. So I really want you to think about that. The other thing is your portfolio and your body of work. A lot of you are presenting student work only, which again doesn't really speak to the realities of working for a real business. You're not going to have 2 weeks to do a project. You're going to have 2 hours. So really think about that, and that's why those real world projects and real client work matters, because we need to know that you can do things on a deadline, that you can be accountable, and that you can show up and do the work when there are real stakes and not just a letter grade on the line here. Remember, this is a business. So if you keep those things in mind, that's going to be helpful. And that might sound very rudimentary or like obvious to you guys, but like some people are really overlooking and overthinking this, because like I remember interviewing designers from some of the best schools in the world when I worked at ad agency. And the reality is that, their work was good, it was okay, and they had the paperwork, and their personalities were, just fine for the day-to-day work, but they lacked in any kind of confidence in talking about their work. And when we asked them specific questions about their workflow, or what tools they would use to accomplish something, or whether they knew certain techniques or skills, they got very uncomfortable very quickly, and they couldn't answer those questions. Whereas when we asked freelancers without college degrees that had, in a lot of cases, much better work, the reality is they were much more comfortable to answer those questions because they were in the habit of justifying their work to clients and taking money and asking for money. They also, in the interview, asked for higher salaries than people who had a degree, which is interesting because we've been taught and conditioned to believe that degrees guarantee us better salaries and better job opportunities. But the reality is that executions actually guarantee this, that the actual work that you do, whether you have a degree or not. I've always told college students that while you're 4 years in college, when you've got spare time, do not go to parties, do not hang out, hustle, build a brand, build a business, get clients, get referrals, get testimonials, get video testimonials if you can. I tell people to do all those things, build a website, because that means that by the time you graduate, you're comfortable to ask for money, and you also have developed something that justifies you and backs you up to ask for that money. So that's a big part of it. The confidence that you bring to the interview is also going to be very telling about the value of the work that you can produce, because if you're not confident in your work and your execution, when you do show up, if you get the job, you're not going to be confident in pitching your ideas. You're not going to be confident in explaining things, and it's going to be very difficult to work with you because you may not believe in the work that you're doing. And if you're just phoning in and show up for a paycheck, like, people who do that don't last, and that matters. So make sure you're practicing talking confidently about your work and confidently about your process and being able to explain it without jargon. If you're applying for an in-house graphic design position, remember, a designer and art director may not be interviewing you. A layman, someone in HR who has never touched Photoshop, might be interviewing you, so you need to be able to explain and rationalize what you're talking about to someone like that, someone who's just an end user. So do not try to talk over their head and sound impressive. You just aren't going to get anywhere doing that. When you are talking to an art director and a creative director, ask a lot of questions. They love it, we love it, when you ask questions, especially if they're very intelligent questions that speak to you wanting to deliver value for us. Asking, what your job roles will be. Asking what your ability to contribute to the company or what you're looking for in new candidates. Those are really attractive questions to ask because they mean that you care, versus asking what the vacation days are like, because that's about you. Really make it about understanding what you can do for the company, what value you can provide, and that will definitely help and that will go a long way. Make sure prior to your interview that you understand what the company's values are, what they're about, what they're trying to accomplish, and who their customers and clients are. Make sure you really understand that, and then also maybe write down for yourselves 5 ways that you can actually contribute to that and really help the bottom line, 5 areas that you think you can help them with, and that might be helpful. And just find a really organic way to bring that up in the conversation in the interview, even one point at a time. So that's something that I would highly encourage you to do, is just make sure you have a real understanding of why you want to work for this company and what they do and who they actually serve. Some final thoughts to leave you with is, if you're discouraged and you're putting yourself out there and you're not getting hired, really look hard at your portfolio and think about whether you've used your portfolio to position for the jobs that you want. I've done several videos talking about portfolios. I'll do several more on the channel, so make sure you're checking that out in the playlist. There's like 160 videos here with graphic design advice, so there's a lot of things that could help you if you still have questions. But I would say that if you're not getting hired, that it's got to be either something in the way you're presenting yourself, or it's got to be your portfolio, or it's got to be both. So try to develop some more self-awareness and really understand where you might be dropping the ball, or it might not even be that it's anything so bad. It's just that you're not positioning yourself to be the right fit for them. It's like, oh, you're a good designer, but you're not doing the type of work that we need to do as a company. So make sure your portfolio lines up with what the actual company is doing, not just what you think is cool or interesting. Too many designers try to style themselves as artists when the reality is you need to be facilitating the selling of product and services, which makes you a marketer. So you need to make sure that your portfolio reflects that you have the ability to market the type of thing that the company you're pitching to is doing, and that will help them feel very comfortable to hire you and like you'd be a good fit, because it's taking the guesswork out of it for them. So that's the thing that you need to do. Make it easy for someone to see exactly how you make them more money, and then it's probably not so difficult to get hired by them. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you still have questions, leave those in the comments. I'll try and answer as many of them as I can. Anyway.
Okay, a lot of really good advice there. And I think we're just about wrapping things up for this evening. But really think about things from the client's perspective and have your good presentation planned out, and be able to talk about design and be able to talk confidently about the reasons behind your choices and who your target demographic is and what the feeling is that you want to convey. So 5, we talked about Fiverr, we talked about Guru, we talked about Upwork, all places that you can start checking out for freelance work. When you are working with a client, make sure that you have a signed contract before doing anything. And I'll show you how easy it is to in fact, the contract I use is just something I found online. You can find these, graphic design contracts online and then adapt them to your own purposes. So here I just did a Google search for graphic design contract. Let's take a look at this one. And here it is, client name, project name, compensation. So this has, for the compensation, 50% before any services are provided, and the remaining 50 when the final files are delivered. I think thirds are better, but 50% is totally fine. But this is nice and simple. You can certainly just steal this, put this in your own template with your own branding and call it good, right? You want to just have a signed contract before you do anything. So we already did our resume. Tamisha, go ahead and feel free to email me like a JPEG of your resume because the AI file wasn't downloading, and I'll be happy to get back to you with feedback on your resume specifically. And then, of course, if you have any questions, email me. And that is it for tonight. I thought I'd open it up to any questions if you have any. If not, since we just have a few minutes left, I'll show you some current design trends. And then I'll see you guys on Thursday when you do your presentations. Any questions at all? Okay, cool. So here are 5 current design trends that you might want to consider using when you are getting everything together for your portfolio and or putting the finishing touches on your portfolio. And I really like the examples that are used because we've already talked about those 15 design trends from last class, but I think these 5 kind of encapsulate quite a few.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Pat, sitting in with another video, and today, on this amazing day, we're going to be talking about 2018 design trends. This video is brought to you by FreshBooks. A video I wanted to do last year, which I didn't get around to doing, was talking about the 2017 design trends. So basically, I'm going to give you 5 of the most popular design trends that I believe are going to be in 2018. And the way that I've worked these out as to how these are going to be design trends is by seeing what companies are doing and seeing what other big international massive companies are doing that will spark an interest into other people. I was right last year about a lot of the things that I thought I was going to see more of this year and see a lot of the trends that were going to take place. But I think I'm going to give it another go this year and basically give you my thoughts on the trends of 2018, not just in logo design, but in the whole design ecosystem. The first major design trend we're going to see in 2018 is creative typography. Creative typography is nothing new. This sort of became a major trend a few years ago, but I think we're going to see more leaps and bounds this year, with more people illustrating typography and taking an interest in typography in general. We're going to see a lot more companies using creative elements within design type. What I'm not talking about is hand lettering or calligraphy. I'm talking about design type or typography, which is the use of fonts in different compositions. And people are going to be using them to create cool compositions, but also be really creative within them. We're probably going to see a lot more dripping text as well this year, which is something that I've just seen online over the past few months. In the last sort of half of 2017, we've seen a lot of dripping text, and I believe we're going to see a lot of that as well this year. Within creative typography, we're going to see a lot of type that has got parts of it missing. So a lot of serif typefaces that have got things missing out of it, like the thin parts. We're also going to see a more creative variation of colors used within type and the way that people paint it for different companies. Companies are going to be using these to market towards consumers to really entice them into their products. The second huge trend of 2018, I believe, is going to be double exposure. This became slightly trendy over the past few years, but I think we're going to see more creative avenues with double exposure. There are so many images that are coming out this year that we can see that more and more designers are using it, and I think we're going to peak in 2018 with many more designers around the world using this in their portfolios for different companies. The things that you can create with double exposure are just incredible, and they look so natural and so artistic that companies are going to be using them to market their products again. We've all seen the cliche bear or the natural wildlife double exposure where we have like a bear and some trees and stuff. But I think we're going to use and see more different double exposure effects going on. And I think out of that double exposure trend, we're going to see other trends taking place. So another way or a sub-trend within double exposure to create something really cool and awesome. That's not just a stereotypical double exposure. The third trend I believe we're going to see a lot more of, and it's kind of a definite that we're going to see more of this, is more 3D. So I'm not talking about 3D type, I'm talking about VR and AR. Virtual reality is really going to take off in this next year as mobile phones like the iPhone 10 and other mobile devices and more headsets are coming out and becoming more consumer available. This is when I believe VR is going to take a new leap and people and more companies are going to be using it. We're going to see people innovating with it. And because of that, we're going to see a lot of designers, graphic designers and game designers using VR this year. I know it's kind of a simple case of just looking at where we're going, but it's something that we need to think about. The amount of creative applications you can use for VR is just incredible. So keep VR, AR, and everything else on your mind when it comes to 3D. 3D is going to take off massively, not only in VR and AR, but it's going to take off massively in the general design world. We're going to be creating more 3D objects for branding and making it look realistic and creating models of our logos and things like that. The fourth trend that I believe we're going to definitely see this year, because we've already started seeing it, and it's something that I knew was going to happen as soon as Instagram changed their branding and their sort of branding colors, is more vivid colors. So back a few months ago when YouTube changed their branding, so they actually changed their logo ever so slightly, so the red is even more red, and some of you guys say it's more obtrusively red, and it is obtrusive. It is very, very red, but by hell does it stand out on your computer monitor. They actually increased the brightness of the red to the full RGB red on the RGB slider thing. So a lot of you find it very difficult to look at, but it does stick out at you and you can tell what it is. It's the YouTube play button. If you guys listen to a lot of music, you've probably seen Spotify as well changing their color to a more vivid color, and I believe we're going to be seeing a lot more companies creating more vivid colors, kind of like MasterCard and stuff like that. We're seeing more and more companies using vivid colors in their branding, so it's more identifiable and attention grabbing in this hugely saturated marketplace we're in. So I don't believe we're going to see many pastel colors this year. I believe we're going to see a lot of vivid, bright colors, very colorful, summery colors all year round in 2018. More and more companies are going to be using that, as well as gradients. I believe we're going to see more gradients and different forms of gradients. So not just the linears, but the radials and the reverse gradients as well in branding. And the reason behind this is because we're such a flat sphere of design now, everything's so flat, we like to create a bit of color dimension. And we do that not through casting actual shadows in our work, but using colors to represent that, to give more depth into the brand. I'm not talking about logo design particularly, I'm talking more about companies and what they're trying to do, especially social media companies. And the last design trend that I believe we're going to see in 2018 more of is geometric shapes and patterns. Over the past 5 years, designers have started to use geometric shapes more often as a literal representation of their design. So what I mean by that is that they actually put polygons and they actually put squares, circles, triangles, and all these geometric shapes in their design work to show an element of technology, simplicity, and playfulness, and just to create some cool patterns. This year, I believe we're going to see not just more geometric shapes, but more 3D geometric shapes. I've been seeing this on Behance quite a lot, and I've been seeing it not only on there, but just on Google and the whole design sphere. You learn a lot by working out what trends are picking up. These are all things that are created through the community, creating and being inspiring to another person in the community. We're going to see a lot more line work as well within this year, so I'm making it a point in my portfolio to one, actually update it, because I haven't updated it in years, and two, to create more geometric line patterns, because I think they can be really cool and they're really interesting to the eye, especially when it's in apparel. I just want to say thank you to FreshBooks for sponsoring this video. FreshBooks is an online invoicing platform where you can send invoices to your clients. If you're someone like me and you're a designer with client works and you have to get contracts out and invoices out and estimates out and pick up invoices quickly, then FreshBooks is for you. FreshBooks lets you easily send invoices and get paid directly on that invoice. It allows you to customize it. You can actually put your expense in the app as well. You can also use your phone to record expenses from different receipts, so it keeps everything in your invoicing platform steady. If you're someone like me who needs to send invoices and also send estimates and also chase up on payments, then you can click that link down below to get 1 month totally free FreshBooks. There's actually no risk to this. Just go ahead and click that link. And also in that link, when you click it, in that how did you hear about me section, press my name or write my name in, and all will be well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then like it, subscribe, and comment. Let me know your thoughts on the design trends this year. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you soon.
Okay, so a couple useful things there with 5 current design trends. Specifically, bright vibrance for your logo designs, simplicity, dripping text and creative text, as well as interesting patterns and geometric shapes. Another really interesting thing about that video was, what are you going to use to invoice your clients? PayPal has an ability to send invoices, but maybe you might want to look into FreshBooks for a nice, easy way to send out your invoices. Okay, great. So you sent me the, let me pull up my Outlook. Okay, looking much better. An important thing we want to think about is margins and nice consistent margins. And also what type of paper you're going to use to print this out. Let's take a look at the size. This is currently 5.9 inches by 9 inches. And there's no paper that is 5.9 inches by 9 inches. So I would recommend making your first document 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches tall. That way that's a standard paper size, and you can design to make that something that you can actually print. So now what I'm looking at down here at the bottom is the text really, really close to the bottom here. And this is likely going to get cut off by the printer. So I'd recommend having, making sure that you have a nice border around all of your text, at least, a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. And so instead of having everything so close down there to the bottom, move it up. And you have plenty of space to move it up into because you have a huge space right here. And so move this up. I also noticed there's some spelling errors. Right now it says relevant. So you want to switch the L and the V there. Think also, and this too, there's another spelling error that's spelled wrong as well. Think too about consistent capitalization. You have summary of qualifications with qualifications capitalized, and you have relevant clubs lowercase here. So I'd recommend having capital R, capital C. Okay, and something else I'm noticing is there is quite a bit of space on this side here. So think about, if you want to kind of keep the long narrow, think about maybe making a column on the side, maybe with your contact information, maybe with a design of some sort. So all this space here that isn't so empty. I would recommend, so these awards, the academic refinement courses and the certificate of recognition for English and algebra, not really related to design. So I would recommend removing these, and let's only have design related design related awards here. Now this needs to be beefed up a lot. We want to see a lot more content here in your summary of qualifications. There is a plus sign here for some reason. Think also about your use of capitalization. Periodically you capitalize certain letters, but there doesn't seem to be any reason for it. So make sure your use of capitalization is consistent. Now to give you an idea of how, oh, and also it looks like your associate's degree is in a different date format. It says Independence University, and then in parentheses it has 2015 to current, and then associate's degree dash October 2016. Maybe I wouldn't have October 2016 here. I'd recommend having like associate's degree and then what you earned the associate's degree in. Now, I do remember I made a little resume for you, and I put a lot of work into figuring out what to do for your summary of qualifications. So if you take a look at this here, and also, you know, your relevant coursework, and I can email this to you. You know, this is an example of what I'd like to see in your summary of qualifications: a full paragraph of content with your skills. Don't just list the programs you know, but list the skills that you have, list the relevant courses that you've taken, any clubs you're a member of. So I'll go ahead and save this as a JPEG and send this to you so you can use it kind of as a guide for filling up your content. Actually, you know, maybe I'll do save for web. I'll make it nice and small. So file, export, save for web. Okay, and so those are the things that I'd like you to work on. Have a nice consistent margins, use consistent capitalization, check your spelling and grammar. Oh, remove a mission statement, no mission statement. Include a list of skills, beef up your summary of qualifications, and move your summary of qualifications to the top. Any questions, Tamisha? Okay, great. Well, have a good evening, and I look forward to seeing your presentation on Thursday.